Welcome to the messy middle of entrepreneurship, unfiltered and unapologetic. Uncensored Entrepreneurs, hosted by Star Cod, Robert Wall, and Tina Torres-Wilson, brings you real stories from the trenches of building a business. Those late nights, hard lessons, big wins, and everything in between. This is where the truth about entrepreneurship lives. No fluff, no filters, just raw, honest conversations with founders who have lived it. So, if you're over the highlight reel and you're ready for the real deal, hit play. Somewhere around 45 or 50, the career playbook that you've been following your whole entire life, it stops working. The applications go nowhere. The recruiters, they go quiet. And the systems that was supposed to reward your experience starts treating you like a liability. John Tarnoff has spent over a decade helping mid-career professionals flip that script entirely. He's a career transition coach, former Hollywood studio executive, tech startup founder, Carnegie Mellon educator, and the author of Boomer Reinvention, How to Create Your Dream Career Over 50. After producing and marketing movies for major studios and launching during the dot-com era, John earned a master's in spiritual psychology, and he built a coaching practice around a deceptively simple framework called the 3 Elements Career Builder. His approach, it helps experienced professionals stop being job seekers and start becoming what he calls opportunity magnets. This conversation is about what it takes to stay relevant, to get hired, and to build a career with this real meaning when the traditional system has decided that you're past the expiration date. John, welcome to Uncensored.
Thanks so much. Great intro. Looking forward to having this conversation with you guys.
It's interesting, before we actually went live, we talked briefly about this dot-com era. I could relate to that because I started one of my mainstream businesses at that point in time. It was no longer a household business. And so a lot of things happened to many of us back then. Things continue to evolve, and technology with AI, all the things that we have at our fingertips now. But tell us a little bit about just your journey as an entrepreneur and what has led you to what you're doing today. And I know that you want to discuss a few things to give us some of those, how to see, maybe prepare for some of those signals that could put us in a situation again like we had during the dot-com era.
Well, thank you for that setup. And I think the bridge conversation here around entrepreneurship for everyone, whether you are actually an entrepreneur going out to found a company, whether you've always been an entrepreneur since you had that lemonade stand at age 10, or you programmed that game at age 11, whatever that drive that you have, we are all moving inexorably towards a more entrepreneurial workforce. We've seen the reduction, the abdication of corporate loyalty towards employees, this idea of having a 40-year career at 1 or 2 or 3 companies where you are nurtured and trained and brought through the hierarchy to increasing levels of responsibility and seniority. That's gone. Right? There is no more loyalty. There is callous disregard for the experience of the employee. They take every opportunity to reduce the value that you provide to the organization. I mean, the list goes on, right? Anyone who's been out in the job market knows this. You just have to open up your LinkedIn and
you're just another number.
We've not kept up as workers, professionals, employees. We're still operating on that old aspirational playbook and are shocked, I tell you, as corporations are behaving this badly, that people are scanning your resume unfeelingly through a applicant tracking system. Or now with AI, they're rejecting you through AI. They're interviewing you through AI. You're asked to sit with a bot before you sit with a human, if you ever get to the human. So it's just more and more dehumanizing. And this has been going on for a while. Ever since I started coaching, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse. The prescription, the counter, is to stop trying to fit yourself into what other people expect of you or are looking for, or the job description, because job descriptions are mostly fiction. Most people don't really know what they want. So stop trying to do that and start focusing on you. And this is where the entrepreneurial mindset becomes so important. And I say to people every day, stop thinking of yourself as an employee under the direction of a manager and start thinking of yourself as a consultant looking to provide value to a client. So let's stop there and pivot from this.
I love that. Thinking about becoming a consultant versus constantly trying to apply for these jobs. I've been out of the workforce for quite some time. I think many of us have. And so my son just recently turned 16 and he said, Mom, I want to get a summer job. I'm just now finding out about all of this AI stuff. He said, Mom, they rejected me within a few hours. And he had to do an interview where he was just talking to the camera. And I said, that is so interesting. I guess I was totally out of that loophole.
We went into the Dairy Queen and said, do you have a job application? And oh, by the way, do you have a pen? And we didn't even bring a pen with us to fill out the application. And now it's completely different.
So, John, I know that you went back to school to get your master's degree in spiritual psychology. What drew you to that discipline, and how did that reshape the way you think about career and identity now?
That was a pattern interrupt that I needed to do. This was the end of the dot-com era. My little startup had blown up at the end of that, and I didn't know what to do. And I felt like I'd evolved from being a film producer and studio executive in that system. I had gone into tech because I was fascinated by the opportunity to tell stories in a different way. Founded this startup with my partner, and then we found ourselves high and dry. And I didn't want to go back to the world that I had come from, but I didn't know how to go forward. And there were certainly no jobs in tech. No one was hiring. Everyone was heading for the hills. And certainly no one was going to hire me because I just lost millions of dollars for my investors. So I was at a real crossroads. And I thought, I need to do something different. I need to think differently about myself. I need to learn more about how the world works, how people tick. And I knew some people who had done this program and turned their careers around because of what they had learned about human behavior, their own behavior, evolved to new ways of speaking about their work and defining their work. I thought, I got to do this. And that's what got me into it. And it turned into a miraculous shift for me because an opportunity came up, which became the foundation of the philosophy that I use in coaching, which is to really start not so much with the job description that's out there, but with what it is that you provide and want to provide. The exercise that I work on with my clients is the Ikigai exercise based on this idea of life's purpose. And there are 4 questions at the top of it, which are, what do you love to do? What do you do well? What does your world need? And what can you get paid for? So I was in this dilemma around this, and I wound up getting a job at DreamWorks Animation in the 2000s, which was an amazing time to be at that company. But I got hired despite the fact that they were not looking for anybody to hire as an executive at that time. I had a contact there, one of the flakiest guys I knew. And he said, would you ever consider coming to work here? And I said, oh God, I would love that. I said, what's the job? He said, well, there is no job. I just think you'd be great over here. I thought, great, thanks a lot.
Create a job for you.
He said, look, let me set you up with some people over here. And the difficulty was there was no agenda to these conversations. I had to create that agenda. So I was listening really closely what was going on and seeing how the conversation was going to evolve. And they wanted to talk about talent development because that was the challenge that they were experiencing across all of these departments. They were out of startup mode, trying to grow their output from one animated movie every 18 months to 2 movies a year. So we were talking about this, and I thought talent development, sure, I've been doing talent development in every job I've ever had. It hasn't been the job, but I've used that skill. I've built that skill through all of it because certainly going back, the startup, building a team, managing a team, putting a movie crew together. What's the chemistry? How do actors work together the director, the vision, the supporting crew, all of those questions. And they began to look at me as a talent development executive. I had no idea what that was, but they thought that what I had done previously was a perfect fit for them. So that's what they hired me to do. And I had never done this before formally, but it turned out to be the best job of my career because I had dropped these ideas about who am I? What do I do? I make movies. I'm an operations guy in this tech world. No, I'm a talent development guy. That's what fascinates me. That answers those 4 questions, those 4 ikigai questions. What do you love? What are you good at? Et cetera, et cetera. So that became a mental model that I think is really relevant to anyone who is in a transition in the workforce today.
Wow. You're so right. I mean, I talk a great deal about branding as well, personal branding. We're not talking logos and color schemes. And I know a lot of your work is centered around that. Let's expand on that for a moment. So you have the 3 elements that we alluded to earlier of the career builder framework. Walk us through that and how it defines your superpower.
Again, based on this DreamWorks experience and the work that I subsequently was doing with their teams, what I came to the realization of is that generalists get ignored, specialists get hired. And that is particularly true in our world today, where cycles are very short. You need a problem solved today. You have no idea whether this problem is going to exist 18 months from now, but you need it fixed today. Too many mid-career professionals who have significant experience, significant skills, they stuff their LinkedIn profiles with everything. And I look at some of these about sections and they go down the page, 20 different skills. I'm blinded by the complexity of this pitch and I scroll off. I'm not interested in reading all of the details. What do? They do everything. And in marketing, of course, if you think that your audience and your market is everyone, your market is no one. And that applies in job search. So the idea of the superpower is that you want to niche down to that single set of deliverables that define your best value proposition. And that's what you're selling. The pushback I get from people is, yeah, but I'm leaving money on the table if I just focus on one thing. The truth is, if you focus on all of these things, you'll get 0 traction and you'll be wasting your time because no one knows what to do with you. You can do anything, then you're going to do nothing. But if you focus on that one thing, you're going to get fewer hits, but you're going to get a lot more traction. So start there. Second element then is stop applying to every job that you could do, should do, might do, and focus on building a career referral community. Because the way you're going to get a job, particularly as an experienced professional, is through a referral. And you want to build that referral network, as you were alluding, attract the opportunities to you. Because if you have that clearly defined value proposition, that superpower, it helps people know how to sell for you. If you're a generalist, you're going to have the usual thing that everyone has where you're out of a job, you call up your close network and you say, I need to find something fast. And they say, well, if I hear of something, I'll call you. And they never do, right? Not because they don't like you or don't want you to succeed. They don't know how to sell you. They don't know how to pitch you. If you have a clear value proposition, a clear niche superpower, makes it easy for them. And they're going to market for you 24/7. Because it's easy for them to pick up the phone or send an email or send someone to your profile because the profile is clear. A lot of the times people don't want to share your profile because they look at your profile and they go, I don't really know what they do. So I'm not going to stick my neck out for them and recommend them when the person I'm going to recommend it to will have no idea how to deal with them if they're right or not. So that's really what you need to do in the second element is put that career referral network together. And then the third element goes to your branding comment. You want to be able to keep the conversation going. The classic networking pushback is, okay, I've made these connections. Now what am I supposed to do? Call everybody up every 2 weeks and ask what's going on? That gets old very fast. What happens with people in networking is that they give up. And the longer that they are out of the job, the less they're going to connect because they feel embarrassed. They feel like I should have landed by now. I haven't landed. I'm not going to call my friends or my contacts and because they're going to say, oh, you still haven't gotten a job? What's wrong with you? So the third element then, which I refer to as professional branding, because I think of personal branding kind of as a retrospective statement of who you've been, how you're known. But the professional branding is looking to the future. What am I going to provide? How can I address the problems of today, solve for tomorrow? How am I going to establish that? And the idea is to use thought leadership to stand up for what you stand for as a professional, define 1, 2, 3, maximum 4 pillars of wisdom, effectiveness that you represent as a professional. That's your subject matter expertise. Dine out on that. Keep engaging on that, whether you're posting on LinkedIn, whether you are going and participating in conferences and panels and being a leader in your community, whether you're being an adjunct educator and going out and teaching ideas, doing lunch and learns for your friends' companies, whatever that might be, define your area of expertise, and then you're just living it every day in every way.
We hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as we are. One thing we've learned through building our own businesses and from the stories we hear on this podcast is that podcasting can be one of the most powerful tools for growth, but only when it's done strategically. That's why we're such fans of So True. It's a podcast strategy and production agency that helps entrepreneurs create shows that lead to real results, audience growth, aligned leads, and increased sales. So, if you're thinking about starting a podcast or you want to get better results from the one that you already have, check them out at sotruemedia.com. That's sotruemedia.com. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
And you don't want to have that 4 or 5 page resume anymore. But a listener who's been sending out resumes, getting ghosted, and starting to internalize it as a personal failure, what do you want them to understand about what's actually happening in their life right now?
Well, what's happening in their life is that they are seen as a commodity. And the more they try to fit in by accepting the conventional wisdom of career coaches and recruiters and other people who do what I do, they're going to continue to be thwarted because the key is not to be like everybody else and do what everybody else does. The key is to stand out. And the first thing I would say, and I get into a lot of trouble on this one, is to stop lying about your age. Stop hiding your graduation dates. Stop cutting off your experience at 10 or 15 years. You want to dine out on your experience. Are you ashamed of your experience? Are you ashamed of your age? Because if you are undercutting and undermining the value that you are delivering, and you are catering to an ignorant segment of the workforce population that is not looking for you in any event and will find out how old you are, no matter what you do to hide it, and they will reject you. So why go through that? And by the way, if you get hired, if you pull it off and you get hired and they don't know how old you are, which they will, but let's say they don't, do you want to go in there every day pretending to be someone you're not, pretending to know less than you know, censoring, dumbing yourself down? I hear of people who are advised by recruiters and career coaches to demote themselves on their profiles. If they've been a VP, don't say VP, say director. If you're a director, you're going to say manager. I mean, how crazy is that? What extent are you going to demean yourself just to get a job where you're going to be doing less, getting paid less? I'm going to fall over and faint right now because of the implications of that injustice. So please, everybody out there, grow a pair or whatever the analogy is. I don't mean to be rude about this, but stand up for yourself. You deserve that job. Find the people who get you. Use your network, build your community around your value. And look, at the end of the day, if your value proposition is what they need, they don't really care how old you are. They just want it done.
So, John, you're clear that retirement is becoming a gradual slowdown rather than just a sudden stop. So, how should that reality change the way someone who's in their 40s or 50s thinks about the next 15 to 20 years of their working life? And maybe this can segue into where you talk about starting that consultant business outside of just landing a job.
I think it's not a surprise that more and more people are feeling like the old model of the 40-year career. You jump out of the starting blocks after school and work for 40 years and build up a retirement account, and then you sail off into the sunset and wait to die is no longer the way to go. A lot of us have been talking about this for the last 10, 15 years. I think the mainstream press and the culture is starting to really pick up on this, and I'm really pleased to see the mainstream business press, the New York Times, Business Insider, USA Today. I mean, everyone's talking about encore careers or people who are working later, top 80 over 80, that kind of thing. And I think it's very encouraging to people who otherwise feel like, oh my God, my life is over if I get fired or let go at 55 or 60, I'm done, which used to be the prescription. When I started out, I was working with people who were shocked coming out of the Great Recession, where they were being advised, oh, just stay down, you're done. And now we have a lot of positive role models to follow. And I think the playbook is really open. One of the interesting things I've seen on this is a series of podcasts and articles in the Wall Street Journal talking about the 60-year career, which is really, I think, a way of looking ahead to the way the workforce is evolving. And the idea is that you don't work in one or two or three jobs for 40 years. You actually are working in multiple jobs, multiple careers. You're taking time off to either have a sabbatical, go back to school, raise a family, do something that's more entrepreneurial, go back to an employee situation. Careers are much more fluid. The need, for better or worse, of companies to be more nimble and to not have these large fixed workforces, but to be able to mix and match and pick and choose and find people who are the right fit for any particular time in their business. And again, this goes to all of us being able to specialize and find that superpower, which is going to certainly evolve over time, but it represents a real tangible value that you can sell to a consulting client, whether it is a small or a large company. They may very well need the very specific set of values that you represent and that you can deliver.
Wow, so true. Actually, when you were even talking earlier, it was formulating in my mind a previous client. This was actually just about 5 months ago, where they had left a very long career in a corporation as an executive. The company actually downsized, so there was no longer a place for them. And they had told me by the time that we had a conversation, they said, I've been looking for about 3 months and everyone tells me I'm overqualified. Stepping back from that traditional resume, and you had mentioned about being a specialist, I advise them, what is it that you enjoy talking about? What is it that you're good at? What is it you're passionate about in that workforce? The skill sets that you have, and just start talking about it. And so I had the opportunity to get them on a few podcasts. And then from the podcasts, they started a YouTube channel. And then now they immediately got hired because recruiters, rather than seeing them as a piece of paper that's very generalized, I think you mentioned that before as well, they were able to just Google them and find out that they had a lot to talk about.
I love that.
That's really good advice, Robert.
The overqualified question is a really thorny issue for a lot of people. And it is a idea which is thrown out there, and people get very upset about this, what they feel is an accusation of being overqualified. And I understand why the employer is going to throw that out there. It's a hesitation for many employers because They may feel like, well, this person has all this experience. Are they going to be untrainable? They are not going to be able to adapt to new ideas. The responsibility, I think, is on the candidate to really walk people through this idea of why they want this job and put the qualification, the overqualification aside for a second and just say, look, the reason I want this job is for A, B, and C reasons. And it may be a job that is perceived to be a step back for that individual. When in fact, again, the narrative that you want to put forward is, out of all of the work that I've done in my career, this position was the one that really, really made the most sense for me, where I felt the greatest sense of purpose. So that's what I want to do. I've been a manager, I've been a VP or whatever, but what I really want to do now is this particular job. So really get into the meat of it. And the truth is that if that's the job that you really want to do, they may just understand that you are going to be the better fit for that position because you're not going anywhere. You're not using that job as a stepping stone to go up the ladder and be a boss. You want that position. There's ways around this overqualified thing.
So, John, what is one thing that you could leave us with, or our audience with, that any mid-career professional or somebody that's in this transition, something that they can start doing immediately to start shifting from being a job seeker into what you coined as the opportunity magnet?
This may be counterintuitive, but the one thing I want people to remember is that confidence comes last. And so often I hear people say, well, I will start the side gig when I feel more confident, or I will do this pivot, or I will go back to school, or whatever it's going to be, that next step towards really creating that more grounded career. I want to wait till I've done my research and feel more confident and ready to go. No. I think you talk to the majority of entrepreneurs, confidence was not the driver for what they did and achieved. It was the vision. And they endured the fear and the insecurity and the possible failure because they believed in the vision. So I would say, don't wait for the confidence to happen. The confidence will come later once you've done it. Look at the vision, look at the superpower, look at that certainty of how you feel about it, where your value is, what you're passionate about, what you love to talk about, what you envision doing, and focus there.
Perfect. That's great advice.
John, this conversation was amazing, and we can go on and on. We'd love to have you back on so we can dive deeper into this topic. Can you let us know where our audience can connect with you? We have a lot of entrepreneurs who still work full-time, or maybe they are looking for that transition.
Sure. So the best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only career coach on LinkedIn, John Tarnoff. And just connect with me there and send me a DM and let's have a conversation.
It was such a great conversation. I mean, so many people needed this today. So if you're interested and you need that change, if you're in that 40 or 50 mark, even if you're not in that 40 or 50 mark, I think people are still in the 30s. I have a 32-year-old son who's still trying to find his career.
My daughter's 33 and she's doing well, but she's got her questions, right?
It is so hard as a parent to guide them. And I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. How come you're not an entrepreneur? He doesn't want to go that route. But we loved having you here, John. And we will see you guys on the next Uncensored Entrepreneur.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. If you're getting value from the show, take a minute to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you tune in. It helps more bold entrepreneurs find us. Until next time, keep showing up, uncensored and unapologetic. And we'll catch you on the next episode.